My name is Sable Thorne. I am 34 years old. I knew it would be awkward, but I didn't think it would feel like walking straight into a wall. It was just a family brunch. That's what the text had said. Family brunch, 11 a.m., everyone invited. Nothing fancy, no special reason, no extra rules, just brunch. Before I continue further, don't forget to subscribe and join the awesome community. Drop a comment below to tell me where you're watching from and what you think of the story. I parked a little down the street because the driveway was already full. I watched the other cars in the neighborhood, small sedans, big SUVs, trucks with bikes in the back, all neatly lined up. It should have felt normal, but my stomach was tight. My son got out first, holding the small Lego figure he always carried everywhere. That little figure had been with him through playground scrapes, birthday parties, and quiet nights when he couldn't sleep. My daughter grabbed my hand and squeezed it tight, just like she always did when we went somewhere new or scary. "Are we late?" my son asked, his voice small and nervous. "A little," I said, trying to sound calm. "Fashionably." He tilted his head and looked at me, unsure. My daughter held on tighter, letting me feel the rhythm of her small heartbeat. I smiled, though it was a tired smile, and pushed the front door open. The moment I stepped into the dining room, it felt like stepping onto a stage I hadn't practiced for, wearing clothes I didn't pick and speaking lines I hadn't rehearsed. Everyone was already seated around the long table. My dad sat at the head, my mom to his right, my brother Kalen across from them with his fiancée next to him, and a couple of cousins at the far end. Their plates were full of food, glasses half empty, and laughter floated in the air like bubbles. But the laughter stopped when they saw me. My dad looked up from his plate, fork frozen in midair. His eyes slid over me slowly, like he was noticing something inconvenient. Then he looked at my kids like we were a bill he had forgotten to pay. Then he said it. That one small sharp thing that made everything else in the room stop. This day had been going fine until now. My daughter squeezed my hand tighter. My son froze in the doorway, his little Lego figure dangling forgotten. For a second it felt like the whole room had been paused. No one spoke. Kalen didn't even look at me. He was pouring more mimosa, his jaw moving like he'd heard something mildly annoying. His fiancée pressed her lips together in a small smirk, like this was some kind of show for her amusement. My mom's eyes flicked between me and my dad. She looked like she wanted to apologize without saying a word. She kept twisting her napkin nervously, biting her lower lip. The air in the room felt heavy, thick, too hot. My son tugged on my sleeve. His voice was quiet, but I swear it sounded louder than anything else in the room. "Are we not wanted?" That was it. No yelling, no thrown plates, no dramatic scene. Just that one small question from a 7-year-old trying to understand why he could ruin a day just by being there. I bent down, kissed his forehead, and smoothed his hair back. "Come on," I said softly. "Let's go." I didn't look at my dad. I didn't look at Kalen. I didn't wait to see if anyone would stop me, apologize, or pretend they hadn't heard what had just happened. I just turned around, my daughter still holding my hand, my son walking close at my side, and we walked out. No one followed. Back in the car, I buckled them in, my hands steady even though my chest felt heavy and full of all the exhaustion I had been carrying for years. I handed them the granola bars I kept in the glove box for emergencies. I guess this was one of those emergencies, just not the kind I had planned for. They ate quietly in the back seat, trading crumbs and little comments about the flavor. Kids are strong in ways adults sometimes forget. They feel the tension, the hurt, the coldness in the air, but they also know how to turn their attention to small, comforting things in front of them. I didn't cry. I wasn't even surprised. I felt tired. Bone-deep tired. Tired of being the one who always had to be the bigger person, the understanding one, the dependable one, the one who paid the bills and made sure things ran smoothly. That part of me, the one who always held it all together, the one who gave more than she took, was ignored by everyone at that table. That table that should have been warm, should have been welcoming, should have been where families supported each other. Kalen's wedding was coming up in 3 months. I was paying for at least half of it. Actually, more than half if we were honest. I had put down the deposit on the lakefront venue he said was perfect for pictures. I had ordered the cake from a fancy bakery 3 states away because his fiancée refused to choose a local one. I had booked a live band because a DJ was too cheap for what they wanted. Thousands of dollars. I had told myself that I was being kind. That I wanted to help. That I wanted to show my support even if they had never really supported me. But deep down I was hoping it might fix something. Maybe my dad would see me differently. Not as the daughter who had kids too young and caused trouble, but as someone strong enough to help carry other people's dreams. Maybe Kaylin would see me as more than background noise, more than the sister who always figured things out. I thought maybe paying for his wedding would finally earn me a real seat at the table I had just walked away from. That night, after the kids had showered and fallen asleep, their hair smelling like soap and their sheets smelling like warm dreams, the house was quiet except for the hum of the fridge and the distant sound of a car driving by on the street. I sat at the kitchen table with my phone in front of me. The family group chat was still open from earlier. My mom had sent a picture before I arrived. Everyone at the table was smiling, plates stacked with food, champagne glasses lined up like little soldiers. A perfect little scene. I wasn't in it. I stared at the picture for a long time, trying not to let the hurt show. Then I started typing. Just to be clear, that comment this morning was completely out of line. You don't get to insult me in front of my children. Not after everything I've done for this family. You've made it very clear where we stand. Kaylin, I wish you the best with your wedding, but I won't be contributing any further. The venue balance, the band, the cake, you'll need to figure it out without me. I'm stepping back. I paused, reading it back. My fingers hovered over the keyboard for a heartbeat that felt like forever. Then I hit send. The message went through. That little whoosh sound felt louder than anything else in the room, even though the room was empty. For 5 minutes nothing happened. No dots. No replies. Just silence. Then, as I expected, it started. Kaylin, are you serious right now? You can't just bail like this. Do you know how much work this makes? You're making this about yourself. He didn't ask what my dad had said. He didn't ask if the kids were okay. He didn't ask why I had left brunch without crying, quietly holding myself together. He just panicked because he had lost his safety net and his money was suddenly not covered. Then my dad sent a long message. You always have a way of making everything about you, he wrote. And he ended with, this family bends over backward for you and it's still not enough. I laughed, not because it was funny but because it was so far from the truth. That man hadn't helped me in years. Not when my first husband left. Not when my daughter was in the hospital with pneumonia. Not when I worked nights and went to school. Not even when I got my degree while raising 2 kids alone. And yet here he was, acting like the victim. Kaylin's fiancé wrote next. This is really unfair, Sable. We thought you were doing this because you wanted to. I stared at the message for a long second, my hand hovering over the keyboard. Every part of me wanted to write something that would burn everything down. But I didn't. Then a message came from my mom. 2 words. Just 2 words. I understand. No emojis, no extras. But from her, it felt like a crack in the wall she had been holding up for years. I didn't reply to any of them. I put my phone face down on the table, turned off the lights and went to bed. I knew this wasn't over. Not even close. Kaylin had never been told no in his life. My dad had never faced a line he couldn't guilt someone into crossing. But I had drawn one line. And I had no intention of crossing it again. The next morning my phone was already buzzing before the sun had finished rising. 16 notifications. The family group chat, separate texts, missed calls, all stacked on top of each other like falling dominoes. My kids were still asleep, doors closed, soft breathing drifting into the hallway. For a moment I just sat on the edge of my bed and watched the screen light up over and over again. Kaylin was first, always first. Sable, what is wrong with you? We can't rebook anything. You're seriously bailing now. Do you understand how much work this creates? You're making this all about yourself. Every line sounded exactly like him. Panic dressed as entitlement. He didn't ask what happened. He didn't ask if the kids were okay. He didn't even ask why I had finally snapped. He just noticed the hole in his plans and freaked out. Then my dad joined in. You're overreacting. You always do this. One small comment and you take it as an attack. This family bends over backward for you and it's still not enough. I stared at that message for a full minute. Bent over backward. That man had never bent for me. Not when my son was born. Not when my daughter had pneumonia. Not when I worked nights to go to school. He had been a spectator, a critic, a judge, but never supported. And yet here he was, playing the martyr so well he almost believed himself. I didn't respond. Instead I got up, packed the kids' lunches, woke them gently and started the day like any other. But beneath the normal, mundane motions, something sharp and cold had settled into place. I was done being their crutch. I was done being the one who held everything together while they ignored me, criticized me, or made me feel invisible. I was done being the person who gave and gave until there was nothing left, just to be told it was never enough. That day, as I made breakfast for my kids, helping them find their socks, brushing their hair, checking homework, and packing lunches, I felt a strange relief. It was a heavy, bitter relief, but it was real. I realized something important. My kids were safe, loved, and supported. That's what mattered most. I wasn't responsible for other people's anger, entitlement, or expectations anymore. I had given what I could, and I had the right to stop. And for the first time in a long time, I felt a small, quiet strength growing inside me. When the kids were finally out the door, I sat down at my desk. My eyes landed on the list I had made the night before. Venue, cake, band. My heart thumped a little, but I knew it was time. Time to cancel everything. Time to stop carrying everyone else's plans on my shoulders. I took a deep breath and opened my laptop. It was quiet in the house, the kind of quiet that feels like it's holding its breath with you. The first call I made was to the place where the wedding was supposed to be. Kalen had been so sure about this lakefront estate. He said a backyard wedding just wasn't fancy enough. I didn't care about fancy things. I cared about peace. The coordinator answered the phone, cheerful at first, but when she recognized my name, her voice softened. "Oh, hi, Sable. Is everything okay?" she asked. I need to cancel the reservation," I said. There was a pause, the sound of her fingers tapping the keyboard, a little sigh that told me she understood. "You're still within the refund window," she said. "We can return the full deposit." I felt a strange kind of relief. Not the emotional, joyful kind. More like a knot in my chest had just loosened. One big, heavy worry was gone. Next I called the bakery. The one I had spent weeks choosing. A 4-tier almond cake with buttercream frosting and delicate edible flowers shipped from another state. I could almost smell it over the phone. The woman answered, and at first her voice sounded annoyed. But then she realized nothing had been made yet. "We can refund all but the design fee," she said. I told her that was fine. Honestly, I would have paid twice that just to close the chapter and feel free again. The band was a little trickier. Their manager said they had blocked out the date. I explained calmly that the rehearsal hadn't started yet, and our contract allowed for cancellation without any extra charges. "You really want to back out?" the booking agent asked. "Yes," I said firmly. "I really do." By 2 p.m., every single wedding vendor had been called, every contract unwound, and every dollar I had spent on this wedding was slowly coming back to me. I felt a strange, quiet weight lift from my chest. It was almost like the house itself exhaled with me. I decided to take the kids on a walk. The crisp autumn air brushed against my cheeks. My daughter ran ahead to collect fallen leaves, bright red, gold, and orange. She called them treasures, showing me each one as though they were rare gems. My son walked beside me, quiet for a while, then asked, "Are we still going to Uncle Kalen's wedding?" I told him simply no. He thought for a moment and said, "Good. I don't want to go where people don't like us." That hit me harder than anything my family had typed in the group chat. Kids don't lie. They don't manipulate. They just see the world as it is. When we got home, my phone had exploded with notifications again. I ignored them while the kids drew at the table. Dragons with purple scales, unicorns with rainbow manis, castles in the clouds. The sound of their coloring pencils scratching across paper was a tiny comfort, a little bubble of normal in the chaos. Once they were absorbed in their art, I opened the family group chat. No greeting, no small talk. I just typed, "Venue cancelled. Cake refunded. The band dropped. You'll need to replace everything. My financial involvement is over." It took less than 2 minutes for replies to flood in. "Kalen, you're insane. Kalen, you're sabotaging the wedding. Kalen, you're trying to ruin this. This is cruel," said the fiancé. Then my dad wrote, "This is punishment. You're tearing the family apart." My mom didn't say anything in the chat at first. But a few minutes later she sent a private message. "You did the right thing for yourself and your kids. I'm sorry you had to do it alone." I stared at her words until my eyes blurred. Not from tears, they had been pressed down too long, but from something quieter. Something like recognition or maybe loss. I wasn't sure. That night sleep didn't come. Not because I doubted myself, but because I knew this was only the first domino. Kalen had never been told no. My dad had never been denied anything. They were going to push back. They were going to escalate. But I wasn't the same Sable who folded under the weight of family expectations. I had drawn a line. They were about to see that I meant it. After the kids were asleep, I stood at the kitchen sink washing dishes. Moonlight sliced through the window, painting pale ribbons across the countertop. My phone buzzed again and again on the table. Kaylin's meltdown, my dad's long paragraphs, passive-aggressive emojis from the fiancé. I let it buzz until the battery dipped to red. When the house finally settled into silence, I allowed myself one deep breath. Then at 6:12 a.m. the next morning, my phone lit up with a name that made my heart skip. There. My husband. He was supposed to be away for 3 more weeks, deployed far from home, sending me short texts about sandstorms, broken generators, and how much he missed the kids' voices. I answered before the second ring. The first thing I heard was his inhale. Sharp, bright, like he was finally breathing real air after months of holding it in. "Sable," he said, and everything inside me cracked open. He was back. He was coming home early. He didn't give me details, he couldn't, but he said enough to know he would be stateside within hours. "Just can you pick me up? Don't tell anyone I'm back yet. Let me see you first," he said. When he walked toward me outside the base, a duffel bag slung over his shoulder, uniform creased from 12 hours of travel, my chest tightened. It was like someone finally let me inhale after months of holding my breath. I ran to him, and when his arms wrapped around me, the weight of the brunch, the insults, the group chat, all the years of being the doormat, the wedding I had been paying for, it all hit me at once. I didn't cry at brunch. I didn't cry afterward. But there, pressed against the chest of the man who had loved me from thousands of miles away, I broke. He held me until I stopped shaking. In the car he listened. Really listened. I told him everything. I didn't leave out a single detail. The brunch, my dad's comment, our son's question, paying for everyone else's needs, the wedding, the group chat's explosion, canceling everything, my mom's confession, the silence, the tension, the fear, the anger. And then I told him something I hadn't realized I was thinking. "They acted like I'm alone," I whispered. His jaw clenched. "They won't think that for long," he said. When we pulled into the driveway, he kissed my forehead, helped me carry his things inside, and greeted the kids with a softness that made me feel like something solid had finally returned. By lunchtime it felt like he had never left. The kids clung to him, telling him everything they'd missed. Loose teeth, soccer games, drawings on the fridge. Their laughter filled the house like warm air. And all the time he didn't mention my family. He didn't need to. He was waiting for me to choose the moment the truth would land. I stayed quiet for 3 days. Let Kaylin and my dad twist themselves into knots. Let the group chat melt down on its own. Let the silence thicken until it feels like fog. Kaylin tried the venue behind my back again. The fiancé posted vague Instagram stories about betrayal. My dad posted a Bible verse about forgiveness, which he clearly hadn't read past the first line. Then came the moment that snapped the last thread of restraint inside me. Cousin texted me a GoFundMe link. Title: "Help us rebuild our dream wedding after family betrayal." Goal: $10,000. A photo of Kaylin and his fiancée smiling in front of the lakefront estate appeared. The same place I had paid the deposit for. The description was worse. "Due to an unexpected and hurtful loss of support from someone very close to us, our wedding plans have collapsed." My son had climbed into my lap without me noticing. He was reading over my shoulder. He saw his uncle's face. He saw the words "family betrayal." He looked at me, searching my face for answers. Confused, hurt. That was the moment everything inside me shifted from hurt to clarity. I walked into the living room and handed the iPad to my husband. He stared at it silently for a long time. His face didn't change, didn't flush, didn't erupt. It was flat. Controlled. Seriously. Then he took out his phone and said quietly, "All right. Time to introduce myself to your family again." I didn't ask what he meant. I just stood there, heart pounding, watching the man who had always stayed calm in the middle of chaos take a breath and type. Then he joined the family group chat for the first time in 8 months. His name appeared at the bottom of the screen. "There, hi everyone. I'm home. I've been fully briefed on everything. Let's clear a few things up." Kaylin saw it instantly. So did my dad. So did the fiancé. Before they could respond, Thayer sent the next message. A cascade of screenshots. The venue contract with my name, cancellation confirmation, the cake refund, the email from the band, the receipts for everything I had already paid, every single thing they pretended didn't exist. Then he finished with, "We will not be contributing another cent to this wedding. Any further attempts to guilt, manipulate, or publicly defame my wife or our children will be handled through legal channels." There was silence. Real silence. 10 minutes of it. Then Kaylin exploded. You're hiding behind him, Sable. This is manipulative. Families don't work like this. My dad tried to reclaim control. This is not your place, Thayer. You don't understand our family. This has nothing to do with you. Thayer replied with 4 words. Return the money now. Then he added, or we'll see you in court. The chat went dead. Kaylin's typing bubble appeared, disappeared, reappeared, and then nothing. Later that night my dad sent a private message to Thayer, not to me. He didn't want to talk to me. He said we could talk about the money like it was a business thing. But my husband didn't try to talk nicely or be fair. He just sent one short, sharp message. Pay Sable back all the money and don't contact her again. That night something finally broke. Not a little crack like when a glass falls and doesn't shatter all the way. This was bigger. The dam didn't just crack. It shattered loud and fast. 2 days later, Thayer shared screenshots in the family chat. Screenshots are pictures of messages people send on phones. And these screenshots hit exactly where they would hurt, like tiny, precise missiles. Just like that, Kaylin's big dream wedding, the one I had worked so hard to help plan, started falling apart in front of everyone. And I didn't have to do anything at all. On Wednesday morning I was pouring cereal into a bowl for the kids. My daughter, little and bouncy, was humming a song she made up herself. My son, serious as ever, was balancing the spoon like it was a magic wand. My phone rang. It was a number I didn't know, but something inside me said I should answer. Hi, this is Callista from Willow Cove Estates, said a polite woman. Her voice was soft, like she was trying to be careful. I'm calling about the backup wedding place your family booked. I need to confirm payment. The balance was due yesterday and we haven't received it yet. We have 2 other couples waiting for this date. If payment isn't made today, we'll have to give the date to someone else. I didn't even think. I said, if Kaylin or anyone from his side doesn't pay, you should give the date to someone else. She sounded so relieved. Thank you for clarifying. We'll go ahead. I hung up, put the phone next to the cereal box and watched my daughter stir her milk into a swirl of stars. I didn't warn Kaylin. I didn't warn his fiancé. I didn't warn my dad. Not because I was mean or wanted to be mean, but because for the first time in years, their problem wasn't mine to fix. By lunchtime, the wedding place had given the date to another couple. By evening, Kaylin tried calling me 5 times. I didn't answer. He sent long messages filled with blame, insults, and angry words. You've interfered too much. You're making this about yourself. This was supposed to be our day, he said. I didn't reply. Thayer did. Be an adult. Handle your own bills. Don't contact Sable again. The 3 little dots of typing appeared, disappeared, and appeared again. Then nothing. Silence. That night a cousin called me. She loved family gossip the way plants love sunlight. Did you hear? She said out of breath. They canceled the wedding. I leaned against the kitchen counter, half listening, half floating above the chaos, like I was watching a story on TV that didn't belong to me. They said it's because of logistical challenges, she continued. But everyone knows something really happened. Her parents are furious. They already spent thousands. She paused and asked, Are you okay? I laughed. Not in a mean way. Not bitter. Just honestly. I'm fine, I said. As I really was. I didn't want a spot in their circus anymore. I didn't want to be part of their chaos anymore. That night, the wedding couple posted an official message on Facebook. Due to some logistical challenges, we are postponing our wedding celebration. Thank you for your support. No truth. No apology. Just a polite lie to cover up the mess. The next morning, messages started coming in from family who had been watching from the sidelines, seeing what had happened but not getting involved. Aunt Isolde, I'm sorry. I should have spoken up sooner. Cousin Felina, we didn't know. We only heard Kaylin's side. A distant cousin I barely knew said, I hope you never let them near your kids again. I didn't reply. Not out of anger or pride, but because these messages weren't the beginning of healing. They were just the ending of a story I had already lived through. On Friday, after picking up the kids from school, I stopped at the grocery store for pasta and salad fixings. My daughter danced down the aisle, singing little rhymes she made up. My son pushed the cart with exaggerated seriousness, like he was a captain steering a ship through a storm. Then I saw her. My mom. She stood in front of the canned tomatoes, hair messy, wearing sandals even though it was cold outside. She looked smaller, not weak, just lighter, like a balloon that had finally let out air. When she saw me, she walked straight over and hugged me. Not the tight, desperate kind of hug. Not a soft, polite hug. A real hug full of care. We didn't say anything at first. Then she whispered, "I told him I'm done." I didn't need to ask who he was. She spoke quietly, almost ashamed. "He still blames you. Kaylin does too. But I don't. I see it now." She told me she was fixing her bank accounts, canceling things she had been paying for my dad for years, starting therapy, and learning how to breathe without someone else pressing down on her shoulder. "It feels like cutting a leash," she admitted, her voice trembling a little. I didn't cry. But I felt something soften inside me when she asked, "Are you sure you're okay on your own?" I just said, "I'm not on my own." And she smiled. A real smile, the kind I hadn't seen in years. That weekend, Jason and I loaded the kids into the car and drove to a little cabin by the lake. Nothing fancy, no cell service, just pine trees, a small dock, and the crisp smell of winter on the water. My son skipped stones across the lake, counting each bounce. My daughter tried to catch frogs near the reeds. Thayer wrapped an arm around my waist as we watched the kids from the shore. "This," he whispered into my hair, "is what a family feels like." For the first time, I didn't question it. I didn't shrink. I didn't brace myself for the next emotional blow. I didn't wonder if I was allowed to rest in this peace. I let myself believe it because he was right. This quiet, this safety, this laughter was the kind of family I had spent years trying to build with people who never wanted me to belong. The wedding was canceled. My father was silent. Kaylin had vanished from the group chat. The fiancé posted cryptic quotes like someone trying to be interesting for a new audience. And I was done looking back. Then a message from my father came in on a Tuesday afternoon, right between work emails and a reminder that my daughter needed to bring a shoebox for a school project. 8 words. No punctuation. No warmth. "We're done. Don't reach out again. Goodbye." I read it once. Then again. I waited for the sting, for the guilt, for the punch of sadness I had been trained to expect. Nothing came. I didn't feel numb. I felt clean, like someone had finally signed the last page of a document that had been sitting on my desk for decades. I showed the text to Thayer while he chopped onions. He barely slowed down. "Good," he said softly. "Let him mean it." 2 days later he got the voicemail. "Thayer, not me," my father's voice said. It was different this time. Not angry. Not loud. Not dripping with certainty and control. He sounded tired, like a balloon that had been deflated too fast. "Thayer, listen. I don't want things to escalate. I think we should talk. Man to man, I'm open to discussing terms about the money." Terms. My father was still trying to turn a lifetime of wounds into a business deal. Thayer didn't call back. He sent one text instead. "Send Sable the full amount. Do not contact her again. If you don't, we'll see you in court." 3 days later, a check arrived in the mail. It was precise. Down to the last cent I had ever spent for Kaylin's wedding. No note. No apology. No explanation. I sat at the kitchen table and stared at it. This was the ending of every argument I had ever had with him. Every time I tried to earn his approval. Every time I hoped he would finally see me. It all came down to a reimbursement, a refund for my suffering. And somehow that made everything so much clearer. I deposited the check and never said a word. The original wedding date came and went. No photos. No announcements. No reposts. Kaylin's friends posted beach selfies, nowhere near the failed venue. His fiancée posted a glass of red wine with a caption, "Some endings are necessary." I didn't ask questions. I didn't snoop. I didn't check their pages again. Their chaos no longer belonged to me. My mother stayed close in the quietest, gentlest way. She'd show up with groceries sometimes, or leave a bag of produce on the porch with a sticky note that said, "For the kids." She stopped wearing makeup to hide the tiredness. She stopped pretending my dad was a complicated man instead of a controlling one. One evening after dinner, she sat with me in the living room, her fingers wrapped around a mug of tea she hadn't touched. "It's peaceful here," she said, looking around. "I never had that in my own home." I didn't answer. I didn't need to. She was finally choosing her own peace too. That weekend, Jason and I took the kids on another little trip to a lakeside cabin. Nothing fancy, just space, trees, air, and a fire pit that crackled and spit sparks into the dark sky. The kids roasted marshmallows, faces sticky and glowing from the firelight. My daughter found a frog and named it Pickles. My son counted how many stones he could skip, each one bouncing a little farther across the water. I sat beside Thayer on a weathered log while he draped an arm across my shoulders. This, he whispered, is what a family feels like. For the first time in my life, I believed it without arguing with myself. This family, this small circle of 4, didn't require me to buy my place. Didn't punish me for existing. Didn't treat my love like something to be measured. Didn't make me shrink to fit inside their comfort. They didn't shame me. They didn't use me. They didn't abandon me. They were just there, present, constant, loving without conditions. The cabin was silent except for the fire cracking and the kids laughing in the distance. My chest felt light for the first time since maybe ever. Dad was right about one thing. We're done. Only he thought it was a punishment. A door slammed shut in anger. A disown meant to hurt me. But for me it was released. It was clear. It was freedom. Walking away from them didn't leave me alone. It left me with the only family that actually chose me. And that choice, quiet, steady, warm, was worth more than any wedding, any brunch, any apology I never received. They were done. And so was I.